In a world full of bad news, this podcast is a source of good news, real talk, and real inspiration. On this show, you'll hear stories of growth, legacy, and entrepreneurship. Everyday people who overcome real challenges to build something meaningful. My name is Stephen Padernacht, third generation Bronx born and raised in the real estate game. This is the Padernacht Podcast, brick by brick.
I started with the shirt that did 7-year squatter, went to 8. I'm now making 9s. And unfortunately, before I get done with this, I'm going to have 10-year squatter shirts. All of my savings, my 401k, my kids have got part-time jobs, my daughter's got a part-time job, my pension, my salary, all of it is going to make up the $5,000 a month I'm losing between the legal bills and her not paying rent. Well, her testimony was that the bank was inconvenient for her to go to the bank and get a cashier's check and then mail it.
I'm sorry. It was inconvenient for her to go get money out of her own bank.
Yes.
To then go and get a money order.
Right.
To then mail it to you?
Yes. Okay,
Because
I'm hearing estimates of up to $150,000 in the legal aid costs. Now, maybe I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's only $100,000 in legal aid costs. So taxpayers should be getting some bang for their buck. If taxpayers are paying for the case, why is the case still continuing? It's not a matter of winning the case, it's a matter of stalling the case.
Yep.
They want me to buy her out on top of that.
So not only do you lose the money that you haven't collected anyway, but they want you to come out of pocket to pay her.
Right, and pay legal aid, pretending everybody they're a week late with the rent and the landlord throws them out in the snow on Christmas Eve. That's not happening. This whole bit that it's paycheck to paycheck and they're one paycheck from being evicted. Nonsense. It's a 2-year process. So don't tell me it's one paycheck away from being homeless. That's total nonsense.
So the first thing I notice when I see you is I see your T-shirt. Yeah. And this has become a branding, so to say, right? Can you just tell me what made you decide to wear this shirt today?
Well, because I actually had shirts that was 7 years. Then I had to get this one for 8 years.
Well, here, just stand up a little bit and show everybody. You don't have to stand up, but just show. There you go. Boom. All right, go ahead. Stuck with an 8-year squatter.
Yes.
Tell me about the shirt.
I started with the shirt that did 7-year squatter, went to 8. I'm now making 9s. And unfortunately, before I get done with this, I'm going to have 10-year squatter shirts.
Can you explain to me what your understanding is of what a squatter is and what rights do they actually have?
Unfortunately, too many rights. I mean, she stopped paying even the use and occupancy rent 7 years ago. So she pays nothing. She didn't pay the utilities until they were, getting shut off. Not even pretending she wants to pay the rent.
So walk me back. That's the current scenario. So just tell me tell the audience very broad strokes what's going on. You own a property in Brooklyn.
Yes.
How many units?
8.
8 units. One of those units has a tenant that has not been paying rent for how many years?
Well, she paid a partial rent by the court order for 2 years, and then she stopped, claiming that the post office was inconvenient for her. So she didn't have to pay any more rent after 2019.
Okay, so this tenant, and we're not going to use any names, but this tenant hasn't paid rent since 2019.
Right.
How much is the rent on the unit?
Well, the last agreed rent was $2,600.
Okay.
But she never paid that.
Gotcha. So I want to just do some quick math. 2,600. I'm going to use 25 as a round number. You're talking about 12 months a year. 25 times 10 is 25 grand. 25 grand times 2 is you're talking about $30,000 a year. Approximately in rent, 30 grand a year times 7 years.
More because you got to count the partial rent.
Gotcha. So we're well over $250, almost $300,000 in rent that you have not been able to collect on this unit since you've owned it.
Yes.
How do you cover the bills?
All of my savings, my 401k, My kids have got part-time jobs. My daughter's got a part-time job. I'm doing, 90% of my own maintenance on the building now. So my pension, my salary, all of it is going, to make up the $5,000 a month I'm losing between the legal bills and her not paying rent.
I mean, I think that people fail to realize that, landlords such as yourself, smaller landlords, we'll call them mom and pops landlords, essentially are running a business, right? So you have the income that comes in. Let's just use your property for an example. You have 8 units. The income that comes in from the rents then goes to pay for the insurance, the property taxes, the maintenance on the building, the heat, hot water, and various other costs. So if the income that comes in does not cover those costs, what would end up happening? What if you weren't able to pay your taxes or pay something?
No, then I'm going to default on my mortgage.
Which would mean what?
They're going to take the building from me.
They being?
The bank.
And then?
The city.
And then somebody else is going to come in, buy it at a crazy discounted price, and then have to go through the same problems. But then what would happen to you if you lost the property?
Well, I would get some money out of the deal, okay? But it would also be bad for my other tenants because now somebody else that comes in is going to say, to hell with it. I'm just going to jack up everybody's rent and throw everybody else out.
Are they stabilized units or do you have free market units?
They're all free market.
Free market units. So for those of you that don't know what free market units means, it means that they're not subject to the DHCR and the RGB, the Rent Guidelines Board. So every year, the city of New York, the mayor's office appoints a task force, and that task force then decides what the increases are going to be. Usually, they range anywhere from 2 to 4%. In a free market situation, maybe you could just clarify if I'm saying anything incorrectly, but in a free market situation, you could charge market rent. So if the rent is $2,500, but now all of a sudden the market for those units becomes $3,500, you're allowed to charge that $3,500 when the lease comes up.
Yeah, there's a few time restrictions in there.
Of course.
And that's one of the things with her apartment is because when I decontrolled it or destabilized it 10 years ago, I followed what the HCR told me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And now the judge is disagreeing with me. She's saying, well, you made a mistake. Like, fine, I made a mistake. But that doesn't mean the rent drops to nothing.
Mm.
You still have to pay, the $2,600. If it's $2,400, she still has to pay when we do the final calculation, the rent.
Either way, it's not a free ride. It shouldn't be a free ride.
Right. She wants zero. Okay? She
being
zero.
the tenant. And again,
Right.
I don't want to name any names, but she wants to pay no rent.
Right.
Can you explain to me the rationale behind that? Like, what is her rationale on not wanting to pay any rent? Like, when she goes in front of the judge and or her attorney argues in front of the judge, what do they say? Like, what is their argument to state that she shouldn't have to pay at least use and occupancy or at least something in the unit?
Well, her testimony was that the bank was inconvenient for her to go to the bank and get a cashier's check.
I'm sorry.
And then mail it.
I'm sorry. It was inconvenient for her to go get money out of her own bank.
Yes.
To then go and get a money order.
Right.
To then mail it to you?
Yes.
How did she want the rent to be paid? What was her preferred method? Has she stated that?
She had another convoluted answer. She said that she was trying to call her attorney, who didn't call her back, to see if she could Zelle it or something else. And we both have Zelle.
Mm-hmm.
So since her attorney didn't return her phone call, that she doesn't have to pay any rent.
So I'm assuming that this tenant is keeping money in an escrow account and has the money ready to go whenever this case concludes?
No.
Isn't that the standard, though?
It's, again, a convoluted answer. We're getting convoluted answers. She admits she's really not working a lot, but then she said she's saving the rent, and then her attorney says she has years of rent, but doesn't tell you how many years of rent, and she's only saving based upon the partial 1/3 rent. So really, she doesn't, I'm going to guess that she has 10% of the rent that we're discussing.
And I just want to clarify that this is an ongoing legal case. So we're going to be careful not to jeopardize that case and give any names or any specific details. Also, there are always, in my opinion, 3 sides to every story, right? Like there's your side, which we're going to get to. There's her side. And then somewhere in between those two, there's something that is another version of the truth. And I want to just make sure that for everybody that's watching this is not us bashing anybody or I want to give you a platform to tell your story. And that's the whole purpose of today.
Oh, I would want you to do a podcast with her. Absolutely. I would jump for joy if she had to explain the bank being inconvenient to the post office when they're practically next door to each other. They're within 100 feet.
You know, if you had to be her attorney or if you had to state her side of the story, can you just tell me what that side of the story would be?
That's really hard. Okay? Because there have been so many convoluted stories that, as an engineer, it's really hard to fathom when the story keeps changing. Okay? So you need a lawyer's mindset to keep changing the story every year as to what's going on. And then for her to explain that she came home and the bathroom floor was missing, but she didn't complain to anybody and she didn't take any pictures, except that we had an agreement I was supposed to replace the bathroom for a rent increase. She didn't say anything or complain about it until the deposition 5 years later.
I just want to go back to that one specific point, and we're going to go back to you giving her side of the story. But when you say the bathroom floor is missing, in other words, you and the tenant had agreed that you're going to replace the bathroom floor.
Right, for a rent increase.
And you went in and did the work.
No, I replaced the bathroom.
Okay.
I didn't replace the structural floor.
Okay.
All right. So now,
in other words, you gutted the walls maybe, or you put new tiles up on the walls, you painted, plastered,
plastered, new toilet, vanity, the whole 9 yards.
Okay. And the floor, what is the situation with the floor?
That's confusing the hell out of me too. So we put new tile on the floor. And then
we're talking ceramic tiles?
Yeah.
Did you have to break up the existing ones or you just went right on top?
No. I'm an engineer. I stripped off the rubber tile that was there,
and
the
you
non-slip tile.
And you went down to the subfloor?
Yeah, the plywood.
Yep. Okay.
The plywood.
Yep.
And then there was a little delay in getting the vanity. So she complained that, hey, your vanity took a little longer. I said, yeah, it was a special order.
Mm-hmm.
So then we finished it. She thanked me for finishing it. And then now, 5 years later at the deposition, she's saying she didn't know I was replacing the bathroom.
But what does that have to do with what does that have to do with anything, really?
It's another...
Is that part of the... And I just want to... Is it part of the reason for her to say that my rent shouldn't have been increased?
It's...
Because maybe I would understand that.
It's a triple thing. So she's using it as harassment. That instead of us having an agreement to replace the bathroom, I was harassing her by ripping it out. Then she's saying what a disaster the old bathroom was to justify the need to replace the bathroom. And then to hide the fact that we had an agreement to replace the bathroom with a rent increase, she's pretending she didn't authorize it at the same time.
And that sounds confusing as hell.
Tell me about it.
Where are you at currently with the case? Right now, you are currently in Supreme Court, or you're in Housing Court? You're in Supreme Court, and when's your next court date?
Not until August.
Not until August. When was your last court date?
I believe it was April, and they filed a 516-page document a week before.
And what was that? Their answer to what is in the 516 pages? I don't get it.
Well, again, they kind of reworded the whole case. Okay.
Going back 9 years.
Yeah, they kind of represented a new case and then wanted me to do more paperwork to confirm that is this document the original document, all the stuff that was already submitted. But they kind of reworded a bunch of stuff. It was a huge make work project.
Meaning that it was just a way for them to, it could be appearing as though it's a way for them just to stall and push kick the can down the road a bit.
Oh, absolutely. The last one was filed Friday afternoon, the weekend of Columbus Day weekend, and we had a court hearing on Tuesday morning. And it was another whole convoluted motion that was filed approximately 60 days late, okay? And they were using it to stall our motion because the court is supposed to give what they call a use and occupancy rent, which is what she had been paying.
Yep.
And to stall that, they just came up with another whole convoluted motion. And then we had to answer that motion. So that became another 3 months.
What could possibly be I'm trying to understand, like if this tenant is not paying rent, what is her lawyer's end game? Is it legal aid or did she hire an actual attorney?
No, she has no money. It's all legal aid.
And legal aid put together a 516-page document and submitted it?
Yes.
That's a lot of work for legal aid.
Well, they have an unlimited budget. Okay,
Because
I'm hearing estimates of up to $150,000 in the legal aid costs. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's only $100,000 in legal aid costs. So taxpayers should be getting some bang for their buck. If taxpayers are paying for the case, why is the case still continuing? It's not a matter of winning the case. It's a matter of stalling the case.
Why doesn't the judge just come to some sort of conclusion on this?
Well, the problem is they're lawyers. Lawyers get paid by the hour, okay? And lawyers have a much more affinity for when people are lying to them, okay? If I sat here and made up a dozen lies to you, you'd be annoyed.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my favorite line of Judge Judy is when someone comes up with a new story in court, she pulls out their case and they say, that's not what you said in your answer. That's my favorite part of her show is this is what we're going through. So the fact that all of the original arguments were proven false in 22 in the deposition, they just reword them and resend them in. And now I'm answering completely different questions and the reverse of what was going on.
Who pays, how does legal aid get paid?
Well, the city and the state give them grants. And the funny thing is that legal aid determines if the person is poor. So you can hire legal aid. Okay.
In other words, they ask for tax returns or they ask for something to determine whether or not they can afford an actual attorney or they can get legal aid services. Is that how it works?
I don't know the exact details, but they're the ones that certify it, and then they get the judge to agree. So you're hiring the fox to guard the hen house. Now, meanwhile, she's underemployed. She disassembled the second bedroom. So now she technically has no income from the second bedroom. And she was left with a perfectly functional second bedroom. So now she's poor on paper.
So I want to just get one thing before we move on from the legal aid. This kind of rubs me the wrong way a bit. It's like, so legal aid is paid by taxpayer money, covers legal aid costs.
Right.
So taxpayers out there are paying for the representation of the said tenant to now not pay rent or come to a conclusion against you.
Correct.
So just that right there shows how broken the system is, because my tax dollars, your tax dollars, your tax dollars are actually paying to fight against you. But our tax dollars are going to pay for representation of a woman, and it's okay, represent her. You have the right to legal representation, but come to a conclusion for the case. How many judges have you been through so far?
I haven't even met them all, because they'll reassign it to a judge, and then I'll find out 3 months later, then it gets reassigned to another judge.
So you've lost count.
I'm thinking 5 or 6.
5 or 6 different judges have looked at this case.
Yes.
And nobody has been able to pinpoint because a judge's job is to judge and to make a ruling. I don't understand why nobody's been able to make a ruling.
Well, because they keep making a ruling on the latest motion.
But at some point, I would think that a judge would have the right to say, you know what? There are no more motions. This is what I have in front of me, and this is what I'm going to decide. Tenant gets credit for X. Rent is going to be Y. Landlord has to do Z, and you move on.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you rather?
That is my fantasy.
Wouldn't you rather just come to a conclusion on this instead of continuing to drag on?
Well, but that's what the problem is. No one wants to make the decision, because the problem is, since she has no money.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say instead of she owing me $300,000, $200,000 she owes me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? She doesn't have $200,000 anyway.
Yeah, but Tom, you and I both know it ends up becoming a monetary judgment, and then you'll end up getting paid nickels and dimes throughout the course of the next 20, 30 years.
Yes.
Pulling out of whatever paycheck she gets. That's how it works. So, but at least you will have some closure, and she will have some closure.
No, she wants a ton of money. They want damages.
Wait, I'm sorry. What do you mean they want damages? Explain that to me, please.
Well, this is like a, whole human rights type of a thing with them, that not only do they not want to pay anything out of the 9 years of rent, or the 7 years, whatever, however you want to call it.
Yep.
They want me to buy her out. On top of that.
So not only do you lose the money that you haven't collected anyway, but they want you to come out of pocket to pay her.
Right. And pay legal aid.
And pay legal aid?
Pay my attorney.
What do you mean pay legal aid?
Pay legal aid.
What?
I got to pay everything.
There's, again, 3 sides to every story. But I'm struggling to understand what kind of damages, like, without getting into details. I don't want to jeopardize the case.
Well,
but
she was claiming that the rent should have actually been what it was in 1999.
Okay. Give me a fictitious number of what that number is.
Back in 99, it was about $800 and something.
Cool. So $850. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So she wants the rent to reverse to that number. Okay.
How can it? Is it a free market unit or it's stabilized?
That was the rent when I destabilized the apartment.
Okay. You destabilized it, and then you gave a preferential, or not a preferential?
Well, at that point, I gave Linda a real lease.
Okay.
Now, the mistake I made was I went to DHCR, talked to a counselor, and I said, okay, Linda's rent is above the dollar threshold that is rent stabilization.
Which at that point, I think it was like, what, $2,300, $2,400 or something?
$2,000.
$2,000.
Then it went, then you're correct. Then it went up.
Okay.
Okay. So at that point, it was $2,146.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, was what we calculated. So since it was above the amount, I spoke to the counselor, and I says, okay, what do I do? How do I do this since I'm over the threshold? And they said, no, destabilize the apartment. I talked to a supervisor. She said the same thing. Take it out of destabilization.
And then you could charge whatever you want.
Right. Okay. I then sent letters and emails to DHCR telling them exactly this scenario. I said, "Oh, can I get this in writing? Because I don't want this to come back and bite me in 3 or 4 years."
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "No, you're destabilized. Take yourself out of the system," which I did.
Okay.
So now, 10 years later, okay, this is 2007, so 8 years later, whatever it is now I get the latest companion. So it's past the 4-year mark. It's past everything. The judge did rule in my favor in terms of that nothing I did was fraudulent. Okay.
By destabilizing the unit.
Right. She realized that there was a mistake there. Okay. So since it's a mistake, the rent doesn't roll back to 1999. Okay. They just have to put a fine point on what the rent is.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't matter what the rent is. She doesn't have any money anyway. So whether the judge says it's $2,400, $2,600, $2,800 doesn't matter.
Walk me. I want to just kind of go backwards a bit, right? So you give me your mentality buying this property when you first decided to buy this property. What did you think was going to happen, and what were you excited? Like what went into you buying this property in Brooklyn in 1988, right?
Yeah.
What was your mentality back in 1988?
Well, I'm a builder by trade. I'm a total builder by mentality. Okay. So we bought a building that was a total wreck. Okay. There was a hooker in there. There was a drug dealer in there. You open the door and the door would fall off the hinges. I mean, it was like something out of a comedy show. Yeah, it was pretty bad. There was a log holding the front door closed.
Wow. And this is you and a partner?
Yeah. I mean, my partner and his girlfriend at the time.
Okay.
And we just went in there. Luckily, I worked close by. And we just went in there and just started gutting apartments and rebuilding them and, painting them and sleeping on the floor and a mattress and showering with a makeshift shower and you name it, we did it.
So the apartment was a complete wreck. You guys went in there, you cleaned the building up, put a lot of money into cleaning the building up. And then what were you thinking? You were like, hey, this is going to be something that's going to help, help me build wealth in this country. Or what did you think? I mean, what was your mentality? Why buy a property in Brooklyn that is in such disarray?
Like I said, I'm a builder. So to me, that was half of it, That was the thing that we did. Okay, I love working with my hands. Okay, it's a total turn on, if you want to say. Okay, I lived it. I hated it and I loved it at the same time. So making some money was good, but the big thing is I was a builder. So we built it. We put up with all the craziness over all the years. And I thought once I got everything renovated that things would be a little easier. And unfortunately, this is turned into a disaster.
Did you have any really good years when you owned the building?
There were no really good years because there was always another thing to replace. Replace the roof, replace the windows. We had a guy replace the entire electrical system. So there were no really good years because the good years, all the money got plowed back into the building.
During the bad years.
So I could cover during the bad years.
Mm-hmm.
So that there was no profit. And the problem is you see the public and they cry, oh, it's $2,000 for an apartment. And when you talk to them, they think your expenses are $100 a month and your profit is $1,900 a month. And like, no, it's your expenses are $1,900 and your profit is $100.
Mm-hmm.
But TV shows and everything make it seem like, that it's just money over, hand over fist.
One of my biggest gripes about the current landscape of New York City multifamily real estate is as follows. Every single year, property taxes go up. Every single year, insurance costs go up. Every single year, the Con Edison or the electricity and the gas fees go up. All of those numbers go up. And if you look at the big three, right? Oh, water. I forgot about water.
Oh, yeah.
Water goes up too. So water and property taxes are controlled by the city and or state. So they continue to jack up the prices. Insurance is controlled by billion-dollar companies that are probably lobbying the heck out of the politicians and or whoever that would control trying to keep their costs down. And then you have Con Edison, which it sounds to me, I feel like Con Edison is a modern day monopoly. We don't even have a choice. I mean, I don't know, in Brooklyn, do you have National Grid? What do you have out there? Or is it Con Ed?
No, I think it's National Grid.
National Grid. So National Grid or Con Edison, you don't have a choice. You can't shop that cost, but those costs go up. So how is it that these four major costs are continuously going up, but landlords, small owners, are not allowed to at least raise the rent in comparison to the increasing cost of all these other issues? And how does the city expect small mom and pop landlords to be able to cover these costs? Or is it by design for them to not cover the cost and then figure out a way to maybe take the properties back and maybe give them out to other people or give them nonprofits or whatever the case may be?
Well, you on Mandani's campaign? That's exactly what they want to do. That is exactly what he said they want to do. They want you to hand over your apartments to the to the tenants. They've had cases where the tenants all go on a rent strike at the same time. So now the owner has zero income into the building. And then the city pressures the owner to hand the building over to the tenants at a super reduced price. And now the tenants own the building for practically nothing.
What I don't understand is just, how is it that they expect people like you to make a living if you're not able to enforce contracts and leases and collect money on assets that you own?
They don't care. I'm dead serious. We had a meeting with our local state senator, dozen landlords, half of them in tears because they had smaller buildings. And the senators looked at us and said, most people are paying their rent, and walked away. Our other state senator locally, Toby Anstavitsky, I've been after her for 7 or 8 years. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to change any laws, nothing. So John Liu and Toby, completely useless. I went to Goldman, our congressman over there. His people were very arrogant. He told me, call the police. We are a lot of hardcore Democrats really do not care.
Why do you think that is?
Because if you look at the credentials that they present when they're running for office, okay, people should really read them. None of them are business people. They're all, I'm a single mother, I'm a community organizer, my sister was sick, so I'm doing health care. None of them have really run a business. So they're from the other side of running a of it. So
but aren't they in control of a budget? If they've never ran a business and then being in control of a budget, wouldn't that be a tough thing for them to do?
Why do you think the city's broke? I'm third generation civil servant, okay? My entire family, civil servants, okay? My grandfather used to write for The Chief, which is the civil service newspaper. The same stories he said in the 1930s are still going on, okay? All of the same problems, just the technology has changed.
Interesting. And so you haven't received any sort of assistance from any sort of elected officials or anybody outside of somebody that you're paying, like your attorney.
Vicky Palladino had a news conference for me.
Okay.
One of my other assembly members, who I should probably not say because people will get on his case,
Feel free to not. I don't
help me.
Okay.
Okay. I'm working for an assembly candidate now because this is the only way that I think I'm going to get anything. Okay. And if you want a real laugh, George Santos was going to help me. And the comedy of that, as you're laughing, is that George Santos looked at her complaint and he reads through her deposition. And he looked at me in his office and he said, "This is crazy." Now, here is a guy who faked this entire resume, okay, said that this is crazy. But you know something? He was willing to help me. So say what you want about the guy. He was sincerely willing to help me with this and help my family. So I got to overlook some of the craziness that he's done because he was the one that's going to help my family.
Tell me just a little bit about your family, right? You're a husband and a father?
Right. I have 3 kids.
3 kids. And you're how are your kids affected by all of this that's going on with this court case and this drama? How are they affected?
Well, because right now is I burned through their college money. Okay. They're all working part-time jobs. My daughter is now doing food service for Happy Eating Grounds. They do all the Indian powwows and so forth. So my daughter is crisscrossing the country doing food service and being the manager where she should be just, sponging off a dear old dad.
I don't think that it's I think it's good that people work, right? So I would think that it would affect them more so like the public persona and the fact that they may feel that you've been taken advantage of. And the monetary thing is obviously extremely important. But your wife, your kids, like you guys could have had a completely different life if this case and this situation didn't happen. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, well, my daughter shouldn't be working as hard as she's working. Trust me, I'm teaching my boys how to do the carpentry and electrical work and all of that. So they're working, okay? I'm happy that my daughter is being a manager, okay? But my daughter is driving around the country to do this, okay? I mean, all over the country. So she shouldn't have to work quite that hard because my squatter chooses not to work.
When you say that you burned through their college funds, do you mean that they did not end up going to college or they ended up just having to take school loans or go to different colleges?
Well, they went to different colleges. They wound up at community college, okay? We had to do loans for some of their tuition, okay? My daughter's pay that she's earning, went to her college fund, okay? My boy's part-time jobs is going to pay for college. And, I've got a 45-year career, okay? I had money. I earned my money. I did a lot of overtime, working 24-hour shifts to earn my money. And then somebody who doesn't bother to work comes in and says, gimme.
It sounds to me like they're using legal loopholes to be able to adjourn the case and now file this 500-plus page motion and amongst other things over the course of, I can't even name them all, over the course of the past 9 to 10 years. And again, I'm going back to what I was saying before, and this is not for you to answer me, but I'm just saying it out loud. Like, I just don't understand why a judge can't just make a ruling on the case. And I'm not an attorney. Does your attorney give you any sort of insight into that?
I have a fantastic attorney, okay? I got to give the guy credit. He could have dumped me years ago. And if he was anywhere near selfish, he would have dumped me years ago. Okay? But the man's got a lot of integrity, you know, to stick with me. I've been paying him lunch money. Okay? So he could have dumped me 5 years ago on this case. We filed a motion to the judge to enforce the rent stipulation from the court. The appellate division already ruled on multiple cases that a partial use and occupancy rent was essential for an owner to maintain their property. The judge rejected it.
Can you repeat that for me? Because I think that was important.
The judge rejected it.
Rejected what? Start from that part. You said that there was a use and occupancy. Go ahead.
Yes, the appellate division has ruled in multiple cases that owners should be getting a use and occupancy rent, which is usually a half rent or something, so the owner can maintain their building, calling it essential.
Now, when you say the appellate division, you're talking about in other cases, there's case law that says that an owner should receive use and occupancy while a case is going on for an extended amount of time.
Yes.
To cover essential costs.
Yes.
And you said the judge has rejected use and occupancy?
Yes.
In your case specifically?
Yes. She called it premature.
And when was that?
This past, very beginning of this year.
Okay, so early 2026, and this case is how many years old already?
9 years.
So how is it premature if it's 9 years?
You expect me to answer that?
Tom, I'm just making it. I'm just asking the questions out loud. So some of the questions are meant for you to answer. Some of them are just kind of like for the audience to.
No. That is my answer. That is the answer I want you to use.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like I feel for you, man. Like being in real estate myself, I understand the hardships that go into managing a property and making sure that you're maintaining your bills, and then also dealing with the difficulties of navigating housing court, navigating all of the essential services that go into running a property. I guess my question would be for you is, what would you like to see happen in the next 6 to 12 months with this case, good, bad, or indifferent?
Well, I'd like the judge to make a decision. Okay? I have all the documents. I have all the stuff that I did over the years. I don't have the bill for the stove that I installed in, 2001 or 2002. I'm not a Progressive commercial. And, but make a decision. If she doesn't like my rent calculation, come up with a rent decision. And then tell her, good, you have to pay me $250,000. You have to pay me $240,000, whatever it is. But stop adjusting for the pennies in the calculation. Now, I've been after the legislature to make these rent deposits mandatory. That would end 80% of these housing cases. Take all of the rent within 30 days, deposit it with the court, and then the owners get half, and the court can hold the other half for whatever violations or whatever they dream up they can do.
That's an interesting concept.
Simple.
It's an interesting concept. Without going into too much detail about that, but like that would then show the courts that, hey, I'm not just not paying rent because I don't have the money. And then eliminate the ulterior motives, right? So like if I have a beef with you, right? If I'm your tenant and I'm like, hey, you know what, Tom? I have a legitimate reason for me not paying rent. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this rent, I'm going to put it in the courts. And until we figure it out, the money's going to just sit there. Well, that's why I had asked you earlier about the escrow account. Aren't they supposed to be putting money into an escrow account?
They used to have that policy. It kind of died. It died. Okay? They got a lot of pressure to eliminate that because they don't want to evict people.
Which I understand. Eviction day is like, I don't think that there's a person that loves hearing that somebody got thrown out of their house. All I think you're asking for, and correct me if I'm wrong, is just like, hey, let's figure out what it is, put closure behind this, and move forward. Obviously, you want your $200,000-$300,000, but in a world where you're just ongoing and you're just racking up more legal fees and more podcast interviews and and all this stuff, like I would imagine closure is extremely important to you. Almost, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just as important as the money is just being done with this and moving forward, getting a tenant in there that will pay rent.
Well, I'm also, it's a little bit of the principle of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Someone has cheated me out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Plus, they want more money to do this. All of it is based upon these little winky stories. It's not a lie as long as they wink when they tell it. That's how they word all of this. Okay, and it's been coming out, but it's coming out more and more. So that's part of this. And most of the people being evicted are professional tenants. Okay,
what does that mean, professional tenants?
They move in and they immediately stop paying rent. Okay, my office secretary was evicted 7 or 8 times. Every 2 years, she just didn't pay the rent, and then she'd get herself into another apartment, not pay the rent, and then she spent the entire time at our office just getting evicted.
So professional tenant is like it's a thing. Like there's people out there that know how to work the system, is what you're saying.
Yes, one of our local politicians actually got on his podcast and was complaining that he was evicted so many times that he lost count.
Wow.
So now, and this is just when he was growing up, so figure it's 2 years per eviction, and he lost count. So how many evictions is that? That just for his family?
Yeah.
That some landlords, how many is that? 6, 7,
At
8?
the very least. It's just a shame because it's like people just normalize like getting evicted. It's not normal. And from what you're saying, that there's people out there that know how to work the system, and they rent an apartment. They don't pay the rent. They last 2 years. They go rent another apartment and do the same thing over again.
Absolutely.
That's shock. That's just, I don't understand it, to be honest. Like, why would you want to move your family and put your family through that and deal with the housing court and deal with all that nonsense? And again, like you're a small, again, I don't mean this in a bad way, but you're a small time landlord, right? Like this is your only property. You're screwing you out of money. Why would you want to screw people out of money?
They have no morals. My buddy rented a house to a family. I called him 2 weeks later for something. And he says, Tom, I got 25 people living in the house. They took every room, rented it out. So they were collecting money on the room rentals and then not paying him. So they made money for 2 years. It's a business to them.
Wow. That's
what all of this is. It becomes a business.
Can you give me and the audience just briefly a timeline? Because you had mentioned something to me. Before this case even started, there was a woman who lived in the apartment.
Correct.
That was very close to you.
Yes.
Can you just give me a breakdown, just so that way we have a linear timeline for people to follow before we wrap today? So you originally bought the property in 1988, and then you rented this apartment there was a woman who lived on the 4th floor. You renovated the 1st floor apartment and moved her into that 1st floor apartment.
Correct.
Okay. And then from there, give me the timeline from there.
All right. So then she was paying rent as a normal tenant. Okay. She was bipolar. I didn't know it at the time. So come around 1998, her bipolar was kicking up, and she became having more and more problems keeping her act together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she lost her nursing career. All right, she was paying me nothing in the rent. Okay, but since she was sick, I wasn't going to evict a sick woman. Okay, my heart wouldn't let me do that. So eventually, I just made her the building super, and I was getting married, moving out. So she was the building super for several years. Okay. Come 2007, her physical health started to deteriorate. So she couldn't really be super anymore. So we wound up doing, a real lease. We calculated what was the proper rent at that time. And then for the next, until 2012, that's when her sickness really kicked in. Okay. And we decided she needed a companion to help her and supervise her in the shower and so forth.
Okay.
So we had one doctor came in for 8 months on a rotation. We had another girl come in for several months. Again, local girl. The third girl came in and was with her for a couple of months. They got along really well. Then she was killed, and then
when you say she was killed, she ended up passing away.
I consider she was killed. When the guy gives her drugs pretending he's a doctor, that's killed. That's not passing away.
I understand. Okay, I get it.
And then
this was a companion that was living. This is the second companion that's
third
living.
companion.
Third companion that's living in the unit with Linda, who was the super, but prior to that, she was a tenant who lived there that you had developed a friendship with, and also helped her basically by not even charging her rent for many, many months on end.
Yeah, well, I was charging it, but she had no money anyway, so it just reached a point of,
But you never took her to court and asked her for this money. That you just lost the money because out of the kindness of your heart.
Yeah, she became the super, so it kind of all got rolled into, I'm not keeping track.
The point I'm trying to show is only that this is not the first time that you have. Everybody's looking at you, Tom, as public enemy number one, this big bad landlord. What I'm trying to just give a timeline of is like, hey, you have gone many, many, many months, years without charging rent to a woman who was unable to pay the rent.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to show. Okay,
yeah.
Third companion's there. In your words, she was killed, but the bottom line is that she ends up being deceased.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so then we got this latest girl in there. She was a local nanny. She answered the ad for a room for rent by retired nurse. It had the criteria in there, to, some qualifications to be a caretaker, which she was. She was a nanny. And she admits in court that we discussed helping Linda showering and making sure that she was eating and doing the cooking and
almost
so
like
forth.
a home health aide.
Yeah. Home health aide light.
Okay.
Let's call it.
All right.
Okay. Didn't have to feed her or anything, but, she needed help cooking and stuff.
Gotcha.
So that's what she did. And she did a pretty good job of feeding Linda. Linda was fed and the apartment was clean.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it was. And now they've just reinvented the whole thing that Linda wasn't disabled. She wasn't the companion. She says the ad didn't count. What do you mean it didn't count? It's a written ad. You answered it. You admitted you took care of her because I asked you to. So.
And she was compensated for taking care of her?
Well, she got a cheap room.
Oh, in other words, the rent on the room, she rented a room, and instead of paying market value for the room, you got Linda and you decided to give her a discount on that for doing the companion duties.
Yeah, the entire apartment between the rent and utilities was about $2,800. Okay, she paid $850 for the first year, and then $950 as per the original agreement, the original ad, the second year. So she was paying, a third of the rent, let's say, in exchange for helping Linda.
Okay, so I want to just make sure we're following the timeline here. So Linda, well, actually, no, continue. So she's paying the companion. She comes in as a companion in renting out the room. Go ahead. What happens next?
Well, she was doing it. She started to get a little pushy. she wanted to start controlling Linda's money. Okay. And I was saying no. Linda was saying no. Okay. And Linda, at one point, I was going to buy Linda a house in Florida. She always wanted to go to Arizona or Florida. And so I had offered to buy Linda a house down there. And, like in a retirement village. And Linda actually turned me down. She said she wanted to stay with me because I had taken care of her for so many years.
In other words, stay in her unit in the same building where you're the landlord of.
Yeah, with me.
Yeah.
Because she said that I took care of her for so many years when everybody else abandoned her.
Okay.
So she felt safe with me taking care of her.
Okay.
But she said that,
But go ahead.
So she wanted to take over all of Linda's money.
Okay.
And Linda didn't want that. So we didn't.
Okay.
And I was there at her deathbed.
Linda's deathbed.
Linda's deathbed.
What year is this? Ballpark?
She died 2016.
Okay. So about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So Linda passes away and you still have the tenant or caretaker living in the unit.
Yes.
Okay. And then what's the relationship like between you and the caretaker immediately after Linda's death?
Well, it wasn't great, but I had promised, her time to move out when we originally hired her. So, and I was still dealing with, a woman that I was with for so many years. I said, fine. That was our deal. I was power of attorney. That was our deal to give her time to move out. I did. And she wanted time to find a new place, and then she wanted the place, and then she wanted to find a roommate, and then 16 other convoluted things. She wanted to Airbnb it and split the money. And I was like, no. We're just going to, if you want the place, get somebody and pay the rent, the whole rent. And that never happened. We just wound up with more crazy deals, and she didn't want to pay anything. And
back and forth, in and out of court, and that kind of leads us to today. So essentially, once Linda, may she rest in peace, deceased, that's when everything just started to go sideways. And we're talking about a 9-10 year battle that you've been going through this entire time.
Yeah. I mean, I should have, the minute Linda died, should have told her to pack her bags. Okay. I really should have done that looking back, but that's not me. Me is, that was our deal, to give her time to move out. She was going to move out. And now we've gone through, 7 or 8 different deals until finally I said enough.
What would you like the public and or anybody who's watching this to know about you and or this case and the situation that's going on?
Well, no owner should go through this. I've met so many owners that are also multiple years in court. People break into their house. People break into their basement. And the police and the courts and the politicians, well, that's a tenant. No, a homeless guy broke in. What are you talking about? It's a tenant. And then they use the, scenarios. Oh, it could be a single mother. No, it's a homeless guy that broke in. This is not what it is. So stop pretending. Stop watching TV. All right? Pretending they're a week late with the rent and the landlord throws them out in the snow on Christmas Eve. That's not happening. This whole bit that it's paycheck to paycheck and they're one paycheck from being evicted. Nonsense. It's a 2-year process. So don't tell me it's one paycheck away from being homeless. That's total nonsense. But it sounds good for the politicians.
And why is it a 2-year process?
Because
what makes you say that?
Because, well, one, I've gone through it. And the way the courts are set up is the tenant doesn't have to show up for the first 2 court dates.
What do you mean doesn't have to show up?
Just don't show up. Automatic adjournment. No
Wait.
questions asked.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to make light of the situation, but what do you mean?
Exactly what I said. So first, the courts want the tenants to be a couple of months behind, okay, in the rent.
So, like, you have to wait for a minimum of 3 months or 4 months before you could bring a case?
3 months.
Okay.
Okay, so it's 3 months.
Average rent, New York City, $2,500 a month. So you have to wait till somebody owes you almost 10 grand before you could bring a case.
Most of these people are not paying the $2,500.
Understood. I'm just saying.
So now they turn around, it's a couple of months,
Okay.
2-3 months.
Okay.
Now you file in court. Takes another 6 or 8 weeks to get a court date.
So you file a petition with the court.
Right.
And then you don't get in front of the judge right away.
No. Then it's another 6 to 8 weeks to get a court date. Okay? So you're now 4 to 5 months into the process. The tenants are not required to show the first court date. So they get an automatic adjournment, again, for 6 or 8 weeks. They're not required to show for the second court date. So again, 6 to 8 weeks. So now you go to the third court date, which they have to show for. So now they show up. The city will send an inspector the morning of court. The morning of court to go inspect the apartment. While you're sitting in court, they're inspecting the apartment, and then they ambush you with violations that you haven't even seen yet. Okay? Now the judge will adjourn the case because you have outstanding violations that you didn't know about when you walked in the door. So now again, 6 or 8 weeks. You again go back to court, you fix those violations. Again, they'll send an inspector the morning of court. And they'll find something else. A paint drip, a squeaky doorknob. They'll find something. Then you're ambushed again. The judge will give them another 6 or 8 week extension.
I mean, we're on the amount of 6 to 8 weeks that you've just described. I mean, we're talking about almost a year.
Right.
Before that, what about the rent that's supposed to be paid every month?
They don't care. They don't care. There's no mentality for the tenant to pay the rent. Okay? This is what the problem is.
How do we fix it?
Well, with the mandatory rent deposits, okay, that's one. The second thing is with the code enforcement, I've asked for pictures. I want them to have pictures of the violation as part of the program. Every 5-year-old has got a cell phone. Go there, take a picture. No exaggerations, no nothing. That outlet cover is missing. End of story. Now we know what the problem is. Because tenants exaggerate everything. Now, stop having multiple inspections. You go to court, you say that outlet cover is missing, that doorknob is broken. Have the judge say, fine, I'm holding $50 for the outlet, I'm holding $200 for the doorknob. Pay the rest of the rent. But they don't want to do that because the tenants most of the time really don't want that outlet fixed because then they got to pay the rent. See? They don't want that. They want the money. They want the excuse not to pay the rent. So that would end half of these cases. And they shouldn't be doing inspections the morning of court. The inspection should be completed. As you said, we're a year into the process. The inspection should be completed 30 days before the court date. Now, when we get there, judge can say, did you fix the outlet cover? We can say yes or no. But to have the inspections the morning of court is not fair.
Before we wrap up, is there anything final that you'd like to say to the viewers out there?
Well, look, we have to look at basic fairness. Stop with the anger over landlords that you don't like us or this or that. It has to be basic, even-handedness, fairness. If there's a problem with the apartment, fix it. If there's not an apartment problem, pay the rent. But a little broken outlet cover is not equal to the rent.
Tom, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, thank you.
I appreciate it.